Hi everyone, I'm Priyadarshini Budawat, and today I'm going to discuss about the presentation of the results for Unit 8. So my project title is Predictive Analytics for Employment Trends in Business. We go to the agenda of the project. So here goes the agenda. So we are going to discuss more about the problem statement, the methods, hypothesis based on the project, and then the result and the conclusion, and we'll also learn about what are the learning experience from the overall project, and finally the references. More deep about the problem statement here. So the main goal for this project is to analyze the employment data in the sector and identify factors which influences the employment trends. So it's crucial for businesses, policymakers, and educational institutions to understand these dynamics in order to make decisions regarding policies, skill development programs, and workforce planning. So the main objective is to develop the models using the data that can forecast future employment patterns, and it would also be creating strategies. And next we go into the methods and the hypothesis. So here, as you can see, there are three hypotheses. So first hypothesis goes with the economic indicators which increase employment rates. So in that, I have used the regression analysis as a method. So this relationship between employment rates and economic factors such as like GDP growth, inflation rates, and interest rates can be evaluated using regression analysis. And secondly, as we can see, the hypothesis two, so which goes with like the demand for skill affects employment in a particular industry. So in this, I've used the classification method, which is the decision trees as a method for the hypothesis two. And in this, the decision trees are the most effective instrument to predict the effects of demand for skills on employment within the sector for evaluating employment data particular to an industry. And this model can provide insights into which talents are in high demand, and it impacts future employment trends by identifying like the business based on skill requirements and past employment patterns. And thirdly, we go with hypothesis 3, which is the regional differences which affects employment inequalities. So here I have used a cluster analysis as a method, and the regions with identical employment trends and variables causing variances can be found with the aid of cluster analysis. And this model classifies the regions which is according to the employment characteristics, which helps policymakers discover distinctions between regions and decide policies to focus on certain issues which is specific to each cluster. So here we go with the result of the overall hypothesis. So we'll go one by one. So for the hypothesis one, which is economic indicators which increase employment rates. So here, as we discussed earlier, that we have taken regression analysis as a method, and the regression analysis can be used to determine the correlation between the employment rates and the economic measures. So in the result, as you can see that the R squared value shows it as 0.058, and the F statistic shows it as 592.8, and then the P value shows it as 1.66 E250. So let's go with the this is 2, so which is the demand for skill affects employment in a particular industry. So here we have taken the decision trees as a method, and here the utilization of decision trees for classification has led to the assessment of metrics to evaluate the model's performance. And as you can see in the result, the mean absolute value shows it as 30047.4, and then the mean squared error shows it as like as you can see the value 3.272044199, and then the root mean squared error shows it as 176,839.0, and then the R squared value shows it as 0.23. Let's move on to the hypothesis 3, which is the regional differences affect employment inequalities. So as we discussed earlier, as a cluster analysis is a method, so groups of regions which shows comparable employment trends can be identified with cluster analysis, which also indicates the factors which is leading to the variations in the patterns. So as you can see the series and the cluster value in the given diagram, so it shows the hypothesis output for the, and and then we finally conclude this. So there are three conclusions for all the three hypotheses. So firstly, we go with the first one. So here for the hypothesis first, it provides some evidence of a relationship between economic indicators and employment rates, but the model's explanatory power is limited. So for hypothesis 2, decision tree model indicates a significant impact of skill demand on employment within industries. And then for the hypothesis 3, cluster analysis successfully identifies the regional differences in employment trends, which supports the hypothesis. So let's discuss about the learning experience from the overall project. So there are four things that I have learned from the overall project. The first goes with the data exploration. So I've learned more about working with like huge databases, like which involves an understanding of the variables, relationships, and structure of the data. And I also gained a lot of knowledge about regarding the cleaning and discovering of the data. And the second goes with the hypothesis formulation. So my ability to develop hypothesis has grown by means of an in-depth understanding of the data and the domain of the problem. I found patterns and possible relationships by critically analyzing the data sets on regional variations, skill demand, and economic indicators. And thirdly, problem solving skills. So I really developed problem solving skills by composing and testing hypothesis which is related to the employment trends, solutions for a real world problem. My ability to solve problems in the real world has improved as an outcome of using statistical strategies such as cluster analysis, decision trees, and regression on large data sets. And finally, the statistical analysis, the distance trees, regression analysis, and the cluster analysis are just a few of the statistical methods that I have now have depth and understanding of. And being presented with a variety of data sets and hypotheses contributed to building the ability to recognize when to use specific strategies. So let's move on to the challenges which I faced in the overall project. So as you're mostly aware, like it's basically on the code, so the complexity of the code implementation. So there were challenges like when implementing the code for a complex statistical analysis, particularly when handling like libraries, debugging dependencies, and these challenges need to be overcome with a combination of troubleshooting abilities, programming language knowledge, and flexibility. This experience helped me to become more skilled in data analysis coding. And the second one comes with us challenges with the data quality. So like working with the big data sets which cause difficulties with inaccurate information and the missing values. So handling huge data sets like these data quality concerns with care was essential in order to ensure the accuracy and reliability of the outcomes. And my ability to properly pre-process data has improved as a result of this experience, guaranteeing the validity of any further analysis. And third is like the interpretability of the model. So it was a challenge to explain the insights from the regression and the decision trees in a way that non-technical stakeholders could understand. And it demonstrated how essential it is to communicate complex findings in an understandable. And finally, these are the references from which the project was being taken out. So as you can go through here. And that, thank you everyone. And if there is any questions, you feel free to ask anytime. Thank you.